Thanks for tuning in to the Replatform podcast sponsored by Ambience and Klaviyo. You're listening to the soft honey tones of me, James Gerd, and I'm flying solo today. My co-host Paul Rogers I thought he was off pretending to solve complex technology problems, but he's not. He's on holiday. Hello to regular listeners. Thanks for tuning back in. And if this is the first time listening, thank you for giving us a go. We hope you enjoy it. Do subscribe for new episode alerts, and we'd love a like on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. So let's set up today's episode, and I'll introduce you to our guest. So the topic today is the business case for improving post-purchase customer experience with Narvar. We're going to cover building the business case for post-purchase CX, key features of the Narvar portal, some information around the local drop-off point connections that they're working with, touching on things like red carpet experience for premium brands. So I'll let our guests introduce themselves and what Narvar is. Welcome, Chris and Adrien, to the podcast.
Hi, James.
Hey, James.
Thanks for joining us. So, Adrien, how about we start with you? Do you want to give the listeners a flavour who you are, what you do, and then maybe afterwards, Chris, you can do that and touch upon Narvar and the position in the market.
Wonderful. Hi, James. So I'm very glad and honored to be here at this podcast. So I'm Adrien. I'm based in Paris, and I've been in the e-commerce industry since maybe 16, 17 years. I'm VP Europe at Narvar, and before Narvar, I spent like 7 years at Demandware, Salesforce, so on the e-commerce side. And since more than 3 years, I also host a podcast, an e-commerce podcast. It's a French e-commerce podcast, weekly podcast about news and what's going on, the trends on the market. So I'm very happy to be with you, James, and talk a little bit about post-purchase, but also e-commerce ecosystem and trends.
Wonderful. Fellow podcaster, thanks for joining me. And Chris, how about you? What's your role? What do you do? And also, for those who don't know Narvar well or have not used it before, what is it and what does it do?
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for inviting us, James. Really appreciate it. I'm a happy podcast amateur, so bear with me. I'm Chris Hoskin. I'm a regional director in EMEA for Narvar. I have responsibility for marketing. I've worked kind of in this space between kind of customer experience, logistics, and e-commerce for about 20 years. So many of your listeners will have heard of Metapack, the label production company. I used to be the global VP of marketing there. But before that, I was with a business called Salmon, which was rolled into WPP and part of Wunderman Thompson Commerce. I was there for about 10 years, and where we met, James. So Narvar's a post-purchase platform. What does that mean? Well, by post-purchase, we mean kind of everything that happens after the buy button. So it's a platform that's focused on helping empower brands to kind of build trust after the buy button, and in so doing, kind of grow customer lifetime value through repeat purchase. So if you think of branded order tracking, delivery notifications, returns, refunds, exchanges, that's kind of the scope of post-purchase, plus a whole ton of other things. And we're trying to create a platform that allows brands to do that in their terms rather than, off on a third-party website of some kind. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of a scope of post-purchase and what it is.
Excellent. And specifically, Specifically, James, on Narvar, we were founded 10 years ago in 2012. We are the biggest company in this space. We are the leader. We are a global company. So it's not just about providing a solution, but really pushing the expectation from the brands in a post-purchase. What is the next step in post-purchase? How do we work in this space? What are the features? What are the solutions that we offer? So everyone is looking at Narvar as like the leader in post-purchase, and how we'll create this space 10 years ago, and now go to the next phase. So there's many solutions that we have, and every day we work with like big brands and very mature brands and smaller brands that want to go fast on how to accelerate and how to offer the best customer experience in post-purchase.
Yeah, I'd like to drill into that a bit more, because we talked about this before we started recording, that a lot of businesses see post-purchase experiences as a cost line rather than service. And I think a lot of businesses have got smarter now and see it as a competitive differentiator, but it's still hard to get people into it. So I'd love to know what type of, you just said about brands, what type of company typically uses your platform, and what are they really using it for? Like what type of project are people coming to you with?
James, you are absolutely right. So when I joined 4 years ago, and we still kind of see it, post-purchase was really associated to the supply chain world, where it's a cost for the company, for the brand. The package is in the center, and we do everything to optimize the cost of the delivery of the package and the preparation of the package. In post-purchase and with Narvar, we really focus on the customer. That's why I love your podcast, because it's about customer experience. We really put the customer in the center, and we work on the customer experience. And when you talk about customer experience, it's not just big brands or small brands. Every brand wants to delight the customer experience and want to improve their customer experience. So we started historically with high brands or big brands, international, global brands that were mature, that wanted to expand, or they were already global with many various countries, various brands, various carriers. So we help those kind of complex and mature brands. And over the years, we started to be much more open to the smaller market. And now we work with some brands that are much smaller. They do maybe 1, 2, 3 million online per year. And we work with companies that do 500 million or billion online. So we have like all kind of range of companies. And then what do they do? Okay, they want to do post-purchase, but what does it mean? And I think it's important to understand that post-purchase is like the philosophy. It's where we want to do. And it's exactly what Chris said. It's everything, the customer experience that happens after you buy a product on a website. So it can go for things as simple as tracking the order. And James, you will be impressed of how many brands are offering this. There are very few brands, and it's starting to go faster and faster. But the vast majority of brands, they don't offer tracking of the order. So when you buy something online, if you want to check a few hours later where is your product, you don't have this capability, and you need to find a code to go on your carrier website and then try to figure out where it is. The same with notification, having like a branded notification. If you have a problem, James, with an order, should you contact the carrier or should you contact the brand? It's confusing for consumer, and depending on who is interacting with you, you might contact the carrier or the brands. At the end of the day, you bought with the brands, and you want to keep the relationship with the brands. And then there's a whole new world that we are exploring since a couple of years, and that's after COVID really grew a lot. It's everything around return management, and that's the main reason I see like a very big and fast penetration of Narvar on those markets, because managing return is hard. We meet every day, James, customer brands, big brands that try to develop this internally. They fail. Like we knew this in e-commerce, right? You develop your own e-commerce, and this is the same happening with Narvar or post-purchase solution. So they need to have like an external solution that will help them to manage the customer experience for return management.
And got a linked question to that before I come to you, Chris, is Adrien, is around the business case. Because again, come back to the fact some people still hold on to this notion, it's a cost, it's not service, and therefore invest. How do you work with brands to build a business case for investment to show what are the benefits you model business cases on?
So there's a couple of things, and I would say that as I said, with the customer experience, with our post-purchase platform, we really focus on the ROI. And when we start working with the brand, we sit, we collect information, we scope the project, and we just project and explain, look, based on the data we have, the benchmark from our customers in your industry, we know more or less the impact that this solution will have. And it can be things like increasing revenue. And increasing revenue can come from different ways. As you will have tracking page, James, the consumer will not go on the carrier web page, but they will go on your website. So you will continue to interact with them. So it's like more traffic from your consumer on your website, because from the tracking page, you can start to push some content. You can give in real time tracking information on the order, and then you can continue to engage with your consumer and send them on your website. And we know that existing customers is more qualified than a prospect, right? So we also know this when you do analytics and segmentation. We know that those consumers going back on the website will have like a higher chance of converting, and will have an average order value higher than a normal consumer. Having data, what blew me away is that before this post-purchase market opened, brand had no visibility, no data on what's going on outside of their website, which makes sense. But you have those consumers tracking their order, interacting with the carrier, and you have no clue of what's going on. So maybe there's a lot of problem with the specific carrier or with something. Maybe there's problem with an order, or maybe they're just happy, but you don't know this. So having more data will allow you to better do segmentation, target better offer, and to understand better also what is your offer. So maybe you want to improve things on your product page or on your checkout. You have better data on your customer with your customer interaction. And we have a lot of data coming from our brands where we see also better engagement from the consumer lifetime value, because as you expose or engage more with the consumer will continue to interact with you, and we shorten the time between two purchases. So that's on the increased revenue, and we are reducing costs because the consumer, when proactively you communicate about where is the order, they will the NPS will go up. They will contact less the call center about where is my order. There's a problem with this carrier or with my package or those kind of things, because we are very close to them. And we saw that with sea salt, we had like 37% decrease of the where is my return calls on the call center, and we have so with Sonos 50% higher conversion rate. So we have data. We are very confident that it's a no-brainer, and that's why the industry is going to this market, because the ROI is here, and brand, unfortunately, they don't do much on this market, and it's like a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, the interesting one I've seen with a couple of clients is where improved data management and therefore making self-service for customers online reduced how many people were hammering live chats to simply say, where's my order, what's going on? And the live chat was so good at being a purchase aid to drive conversion and order values that the agents were spending 40 to 50% of the live chat time simply answering questions that didn't need to be answered because they could be done through automation. Yeah, so interesting. So Chris,
James, you received a few episodes back, Clavio, they were talking about CDP. We are talking about this. How can you enhance the customer intelligence? And so you have the data, and you can also, it's not just in post-purchase with Narvar, but it can also help other solutions, other tools that you have in your ecosystem as a brand.
Yeah, agreed. So Chris, let's continue the theme around returns, basically, which is we know it's a critical part of post-purchase customer management. Returns are a hassle. Businesses have to deal with them, and they do cost. And interestingly, a few high-profile retailers have started charging for it. So I find that a bit interesting. What I'd love to share with our listeners is, what is your online returns portal for an e-commerce team? What are the features? How is it hosted? What control do they have over designs and flows? Can you give us a walkthrough of that, please?
Of course. So the first thing I'd say is, I think you said our portal. I think it's a really important mind shift to think of this not as Narvar's portal. It's completely invisible. So it would appear like the retailer or brand's portal. So it might be powered by us, but it's their branded experience that we happen to be powering. And that's really important, because what we're trying to do is empower those customer journeys, those moments after the buy button, so that brands can own them, deliver beautiful experiences, and so that loyalty sits with them, not a 3PL, not a carrier, not someone else. So that's kind of the first thing. And you also mentioned this notion of charging for returns. It's really interesting. We've gone from everything being free to some things being paid, returns being paid. I think the reality is, before the buy button, we've seen just a tremendous amount of kind of customization, personalization. Whereas after the buy button, kind of there's a single returns policy often, and there's a single experience for absolutely everyone. And so what we're trying to do with our technology and our platform is allow retailers to kind of move away from this era of a single returns policy and one size fits all. So what does that mean? That means how can you empower a kind of business process based on customer segmentation. So if the data shows that I am a loyal customer, that I have quite a high customer lifetime value, I have good repeat purchase, do you know what? We might facilitate, easier returns, maybe even free returns for that particular customer. Whereas if the data shows that I'm kind of wardrobing, or if I'm kind of abusing returns policy, do you know what? We're going to create a process that adds a little bit of friction, so that as a brand, as a merchant, we're not taking all of the cost for that return, which, depending on what you read, is £20 per order or something within that realm. So what we're trying to do is focus on personalization, try and create a platform that goes the furthest for consumers and for retailers. So for retailers, it's about removing cost from returns, and for consumers, it's about making it super simple, super easy, and just a good experience. So what does that mean? What does our returns technology encompass? So fully branded, we're talking about returns, refunds, and exchanges pretty much at the click of a button. We're talking about a network of returns locations, whether that is, post office, parcel shops, whether it's potentially other retailers that are part of a concierge network that allows someone to take a returns back. And then obviously the notification side of that as well. So, making a notification on an instant refund, or a proactive notification that's almost like a reverse checkout. So Adrien talked about tracking an outbound delivery of an order. What about the inbound return of an order? What's the status? When can I expect my refund? Can I facilitate an exchange kind of really easily? Can that replacement product be sent out the moment that I've kind of pushed a return back to that retailer? So, yeah, we want to try and create a situation where a combination of business rules and segmentation allow brands and retailers to move away from a single policy for everyone to different types of policies, depending on what type of customer you are.
Yeah, I like that differentiated approach. I mean, I've just had a recent experience with a well-known building trade company, bought loads of stuff for our new porch, but the porch was delayed and we've got an excess of wooden floor and I want to take some back, but they won't take it because it's over the standard 30 days. I've spent a lot of money with them this year, a lot of money on materials, but they're totally inflexible. And all that does as a customer is make me go, well, sod you. I don't want to use you again now. I'll go somewhere else that I know is going to look at me and go, yeah, okay, you're outside the policy. However, we can see that you're a good customer. We're going to help you. I like that idea of the ability to customize the flows.
James, does it happen when you buy online that you first check the return policy before buying on the website, just to make sure that you are not locked and you have like flexibility on return?
Yeah, I don't think many people do. I think that's the thing. I'm guilty because by the terms and conditions, I'm not eligible. But it's the inflexibility that really annoys customers. And I think especially now, economic conditions are bloody hard. You got loads of problems, and there are a lot of people worse off than me. But equally, suddenly having like £80 worth of materials you don't need is an unnecessary expense. So I think business need to be a little bit mindful at times of how customers perceive those policies as well.
But James, we see in our benchmarks, because we look very carefully about customer expectations, and more, and it's a trend over the last years. We have customers that are before they buy, so it has a direct impact on the conversion and on the buying decision. They look at the return policy. And you know what? We have customers like Nike, they work with us. They promote return to convert better. It's like, come to us, buy, and don't worry, you can return, you can get refund, and you can have like an easy way to manage your return. So it's also can be a USP, right? So you can differentiate yourself with other brands.
Yes, yeah, agreed. Chris, another question I had for you is Narvar also enables people to collect with local drop-off points, so you get a wider returns network, which is obviously really important because we all know one of the big challenges of delivery and returns is when people are around, where they can drop it, how convenient it is based on their day-to-day routines. So can you talk us through like how global is that local drop-off point network? And then if you focus specifically on the UK, how extensive, like what areas does it cover and which partners do you use?
Okay. Yeah, let's start with the kind of the global piece first. Probably makes sense to focus on maybe the US market in particular. We're obviously founded in the US, so let's start there. It makes sense. So we have something in the region of 200,000 kind of drop-off locations, pickup points. So as an example, USPS, there's something like 35,000 locations in North America. We're also integrate with all of the carriers. So, FedEx, UPS, not only can you return to their locations, but we're also facilitating returns to drop-off points in, for example, like a pharmacy, so a Walgreens or a CVS. The stats around how close, 95% of US consumers live to a Walgreens is astonishing. So in North America, you can kind of just return to places like that. We're carrier agnostic at Narvar, so what we're trying to create is this network of concierge service points, shopping malls, pharmacies, stores, parcel points, all of those types of things. More specifically in the UK, so again, we're integrated with, I guess, practically every carrier. So whether it's Royal Mail, who's got something like 11,000 branches, whether it's like Collect Plus, with I guess 10,000 plus news agents, convenience stores, supermarkets, those types of things, or I should call them every 7,000 parcel shops. All of those networks are available for brands that work with Narvar to give customers choice, to give customers convenience, to push a return back to a place that is local to them, convenient to them. I guess the other piece is, that network's growing all of the time. So we're talking to many retailers about opening up their locations because, they want to drive footfall into their stores. And, if you can get the kind of customer cohorts right and the segmentation right, that can be, really attractive for non-competing brands. So we are looking to add retailers to that network to make it easier for customers. That's our kind of mission, simplify the lives of customers. But it also helps retailers, right? Because they're getting, greater traffic into their stores.
What is Amplience? In a word, it's freedom. The freedom to build a digital experience as limitless as your vision. Create, preview, schedule, and manage all your content in one easy place. Find out more at amplience.com. Amplience. Experience freedom.
Interesting. So I'm a retailer and I can do collection from my store for other retailers' customers based on a non-competitive base. Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, there's been quite a few high-profile cases in there over the years of likes of Argos opening up for collection points for other brands and all other places doing like Amazon collection. So interesting. One quick question actually that came into my head while I'm talking about it is one of the barriers I always see in businesses when they're contemplating this is someone in IT would turn around and say, but we don't have the resource and time and effort to integrate this. I'd love to know just a little bit. I know we can't get into too much detail because we could talk for hours on integrations, but from a high level, a retailer wanting to use Narvar to plug into things like a Collect Plus network, what level of effort of integration is required on their side to connect to your platform?
So on the integration, there's like two parts of it. And as we talked a lot about post-purchase, tracking order, we will integrate with carrier. So that's one part. And the other part is we integrate with the brand infrastructure. So mainly the e-commerce platform, but really where is the data, the truth of the data of truth. So usually we connect e-commerce platform and all the e-commerce platform on one side, and then the carrier. So let's start with carriers. We integrate with hundreds of carriers. So today, when a brand wants to work with us and say we sell in Europe, Asia, US, 95% of the time we have all the carriers that they want to integrate with. So there is no effort. They just need to give us their credential, and there is no technical effort to do for them. In the case they find a small carrier or a carrier that we don't have in a specific country, it's a work for our engineers, and we work on the integration. And depending of how modern the infrastructure of the carrier is, it can be a couple of hours to couple of days or weeks to integrate. But that's not the effort for the brand; it's our effort, and we start as soon as we hear about this carrier. So on this side, I'm not too much worried because there's not so much effort for the brand. On the other side, it's an IT project, so we need to integrate with the e-commerce, and it can vary from a low effort to high effort. On one side, we have the plug and play. We have a plugin with Shopify. We just you know how Shopify works. We just download, you apply the plugin, the apps, and then it's connected. You fill in your credential, and that's working. You have the return management on your Shopify store. Then we have for the bigger solution, the Salesforce Commerce Cloud, the SAP Hybris, Magento, etc. We have those cartridges, and you know how cartridges is. There's the myth that it will just be plug and play. The reality is different. It's an accelerator, so it will help you to do maybe 60, 70, 80% of the job, and then you still have to customize. So I would say like it's from a low to a medium effort, depending on how you want to customize. And then there's the custom, either because you use an e-commerce platform that we don't have, or because you have a homemade platform, or because you want to integrate with ERP or other system. And our platform is open, so there will be higher effort on your end to do those integrations. And in terms of timing, it can go with the Shopify from minutes, hours, depending on how you set up things, to weeks or months if it's more complex. Because remember one thing. Launching a project, it's just one phase of the post-purchase, because often our customers have multi-country, multi-carrier, multi-brands, and during phase one, they will release some countries, and then the project will continue. So we have some customers after 1 year that are still releasing some features or some capabilities in some part of the world.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of answering it for people, because some of the modern SaaS platforms, the app integrations are what turns people towards them, because the business can execute capability without needing IT resource. Whereas, I've seen this on the likes of Adobe Ecommerce, and great platform, but you always need extra IT resource to get it working and configured, and the data flows correct.
And then, James, we know the reality. Some brands, they have a Magento in Europe and they have Salesforce in the US, and everything is like, complex. They have a WMS, etc. So then depending on the project. But I don't see the big complexities on the project. As I said in my introduction, I spent 7 years at Demandware, where the project was like 6 to 9 months, 12 months. Here, the projects on average are much, much, much shorter. So the risk of having them delayed or out of scope is much shorter.
And one of the features I'd like to talk with you a bit more about, Adrien, is about customers setting up unique triggers in the post-purchase flows. Can you give a few examples? So number one, what do we mean by triggers, and some examples where customers have used this feature and some interesting flows that they've created? Yes.
And again, here it's to give you a high-level overview of what is possible, especially for the people that are listening that are not familiar with post-purchase. But as a consumer, we understand this. What we mean by trigger are the order status, and those order status are managed by the carrier. Not only by the way, but each time there will be a change on the order, we want to notify the customer. Is it true? Not always, because if it's going from one point to another point from the carrier, the customer doesn't need to know those things, those very internal things from the carrier. So basically, first of all, we are always focusing on the great customer experience. So we will manage what we want to present to them. And then the triggers is really about where is the information and how do we want to communicate this back to the customer. I would say that communicating the order status, the return status, the refund status will come from three sources. The first one is the carrier. The carrier will give us the information about where is the package, where is the order. And then if it's relevant, we'll push it to the customer. If it's not relevant, maybe we'll stay and it will remain the same status. The second thing is coming from the customer. You see, James, every day when you work with some brands, some of them, when they prepare the package based on the complexity of the product, it can take hours or days to prepare and then to hand over to the carrier. So this kind of a pre-ship status can also be integrated with Narvar. So we can, and I think as a consumer, it's amazing. When I buy something, I can see your order is being prepared. Your order has been prepared, will be delivered to the carrier. Your order has been delivered by the carrier, will update you on the transit, etc. And the third source of data is Narvar. We have so many information, so many data from brands and from those different markets that we can predict when the consumer will receive their product. So we think also like this kind of we have this kind of benchmark and AI where we can analyze. And so you know what, we suspect that this product will arrive late based on customer data, carrier data. There's a high chance that this product will arrive late, and we can be proactively communicating to the customer that there might be a delay. And as a consumer, we are always, or most of the time, we are fine if there's a delay if we communicate this beforehand, right? If 2 days before I tell you, you know what, there's a chance that you don't receive it on Friday, but it will come on Saturday, we are fine. But if you decide to work from home, to change your plan, to start home on Friday, and the delivery, the day it comes, it's not coming, and you send an email later or you don't send an email, then there will be like a frustration from the consumer.
Yeah, totally agree. And actually, it's interesting because some of the premium brands which have a product that has a lot of interim stages before the product is ready, and they want to do the classic product and brand storytelling around it, will use these. Jewelry is a great example where a custom-made ring is being cut, it's being set, it's being polished, and you have all this beautiful content and bringing people into the journey and being able to, so not just like this status stuff, but also seeding content into those updates. Definitely.
We I love that, James. When you're asking about custom triggers, we're kind of getting into this realm of like, why would you make that investment? And it is typically linked to personalization. And, order statuses are one thing. Really good example. I order a smart speaker, immediately after I've made that order, like I'm anticipating the delivery, and what I want is information about the delivery. When I get a notification that it's coming tomorrow, and when I get a notification that it's going to be, with you in this particular hour slot, typically, if I'm kind of in a non-branded experience, all I'm getting is the data around the delivery. In a branded experience, do you know what? That day before, I can get marketing communication about how to set that speaker up, what other speakers are going to complement the system that I have, because it knows what I've bought historically. And that's the opportunity for a luxury brand, pretty much for any brand, to own that experience after the buy button by just thinking about not just the order delivery status, but actually what is the consumer likely to want? Is it a how-to? Is it an explainer? Is it a complementary product? Because the brand knows that I'm a guy, I'm interested in football, and therefore like we should be promoting these things, these subscriptions, these services, these products. And that's our vision for post-purchase.
When the consumer buy online, between the moment he finished to buy and he received the product, he's waiting for the product, he's extremely engaged with the brand. The open rate of the notification email is super high. So, that's an opportunity for brand to own this relationship. And one of the objections that we hear often from brands is we will not send an email saying you can buy something else while he hasn't received the product. And that's not what you are saying. We are not saying upsell. He hasn't even received the product that we are already trying to upsell. We are saying educate the consumer, engage with him, offer you some services, some value or whatever. And this is working very well for brands that have owned this kind of content strategy with their consumer, or experience strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way, an experience strategy. And interesting, some of the more forward-thinking brands I've worked with, they have a specific owner of CX, whether they report into a chief customer officer or whatever it might be, or a chief brand officer, but they own the experience across the journey, which includes post-purchase. And I think a lot of retailers have got quite late into the game of understanding that post-purchase is about experience, not just policy.
And that's, James, that could be another discussion for a long time about ownership. And I know that maybe every episode you talk about ownership, because that's a problem that we have everywhere, right? Yeah. Those solutions, they're now cross-functional. They need visibility, strategic visibility from the exec, but also like cross-functional teams. And it's hard. And post-purchase is another example where you need logistics, business, IT, marketing, and customer experience.
But you're right. You have to have an owner, even if that owner has matrix responsibilities and doesn't line manage 100%. People. Because if somebody doesn't own the post-purchase experience, then an IT team delivers X and they think they've done their job because it's functional. A customer service team does Y, and the two aren't necessarily married up, and the systems don't align with business needs, and the customer's expectations aren't. It's 100% ownership. So, Chris, we talked briefly just then about like premium brands. I'd love to hear about the red carpet experience for VIPs, which Narvar talked about. I know that some of our premium brand listeners will be intrigued by this. So what is that experience? What can retailers do using your technology?
So what is the experience? The answer is it depends. And by that, I mean, let's create that experience based on, what your customer wants. And that will be different for me as a sneaker collector that's obsessed with Nike to someone who, is a fan of Burberry or one of the LVMH brands. So if we go back to kind of personalization before the buy button, we're pretty good at doing that. There's a whole wealth of technologies that are focused on driving people to the basket and having them convert. After the buy button, way more immature, and that's what we're trying to fix. So if I'm buying from a brand like Burberry, does that brand really want me to go back to a newsagent parcel shop to return my very expensive Burberry jacket? Is that part of that branded experience that Burberry wants to set? The answer is no. And when I want to return something, like the brand wants to take some of that overhead away from me. So how about a particular carrier with a kind of white glove service that actually comes to me to pick that return up from my doorstep? And how about me being able to, book that curbside pickup instantly? So that's an example. So whether it's, free shipping, whether it's free returns, whether it's home pickup, whether it's a keep the item policy because they're a high net worth, high customer lifetime value customer, whether for certain customer cohorts we do instant refunds, all of these experiences can be configured, and Narvar can power those. And yes, of course, it might require a new carrier integration, a carrier that is shipping antiques or really expensive items around. They have a particular service level, they have a particular service. It's exactly the same in luxury. So we're able, based on segmentation and rules engines, to configure the experiences that a particular brand wants to set. The challenge with that is, some of those examples that I've given you, so like a Burberry is a global company, and they want to have a consistent experience, whether you're a customer in the UK or Italy or North America or wherever. And so part of the thinking needs to go, how do we set that standard to provide a particular service that's consistent with our brand, our values globally? But that's what we're trying to fix through segmentation and kind of business rules, if you like.
Yeah, I guess a key takeaway for people listening is you need to have a strategy and a service defined before you can use a platform effectively, because you don't solve the strategy piece for them. Although you can help support them, they've got to understand what it is they're trying to do and why, and have the customer data there to enable those people to have the differentiated experience.
James, we have on our website a report that I really love. It's called the post-purchase hierarchy of needs. It's like the Maslow pyramid. So forget about Narvar. You want to do post-purchase, you can start with low-hanging fruit, with basic stuff that you can do internally. So this report is for free, and it's very visual, very simple. We took benchmark, we analyzed the brands with Narvar, without Narvar, and we prioritize and put this kind of a visual.
We can link to that on the web post. That's great. It's the first time we've had Maslow's hierarchy of needs referenced in our podcast.
There you are.
I feel like I need a bingo scorecard of like my childhood learning, my university learning.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Sorry, James. This thing about kind of red carpet, or it does almost create this kind of layering. I personally prefer to think about kind of personalization. So, for some customers, you will deliberately want to add some friction, because you don't want to make every return free and necessarily really easy if a policy is going to get abused. But for some customers, you want to offer boxless, you want to offer labelless, you'll want to offer free, or you'll want to offer things like curbside pickup. And it's that kind of, as the market matures, more of those things will become kind of normal. But there's an opportunity at the moment to provide a particular service for a particular type of customer.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a few. It's interesting because we had Harper Concierge on recently to talk about like white glove services, and you see more and more of these real niche, high end services for premium brands and their real VIP layer. And you see how that can tie into the post purchase overall experience piece of, we've got a high net worth, high spend, small percentage of the audience where we can do this, and it's a cost. And it comes out of our calculation of lifetime value and profit. But you're right, you can't do that on everybody, because your business will go bust.
Yeah.
So I think it's not about, I think sometimes people worry, don't they, that you can't give a differentiated experience because it's not equal, but actually it's not. It's about rewarding people. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a real loaded term, this word loyalty and reward, because I think we're almost all victim of loyalty meaning discounting. I think we're going to come to a point where returns policies will be dynamic. They'll be dynamic based on what you've bought, how much you've bought in the past, powered by data. It's that's going to power these experiences and make them better for retailers from a cost perspective, but also from a customer perspective and convenience and all those things.
Yeah, and I guess what one key question I've got, Adrien, is pricing models. So we talked a lot about the portal, the capabilities, the flows. It always comes back to costs, as we know it. But I work with some SMEs who are really open to investments there, and others who just see, right, it's a cost, we can't afford it, it's going to be too expensive. This is for, I guess, Chris, come back to your background in Metapack. People thinking this is for a massive brand, I can't afford this.
Exactly.
I'd love to understand. Can we talk people through how does the pricing model work, and how can retailers create a realistic investment plan?
So I want to start by saying that I believe that post-purchase, and I look at the last years and where it's going, it will become a commodity. Every brand will have a post-purchase solution, platform, or strategy, which is not the case. So 2022 was never a better place for brands to start post-purchase. And with Narvar, no matter the size, you will have the exact same platform than Richemont, Lenovo, Pet at Home, Pandora, Jimmy Choo, etc., and thousands of brands. That's the first thing. The second thing, and again, no matter your size, we offer on our website a ROI calculator. So you don't need to contact us. You can go on the website and you can put some information, and you can start to predict what will be the impact. And now, of course, Chris and myself are more than happy to spend time with the people that are contacting us. But we have this kind of ROI approach that is based on the benchmark and our customers. We also work on the TCO, total cost of the project, total economic impact. So how fast you will launch the project and how much revenue to generate. So we are really helping brands, again, no matter their size, to when they are convinced, to sell it internally so they can build a business case and get approval on this. And now answering about how much it costs, really we work with brands that do maybe 10,000 orders per year. So they are like very, very small, and some others that are huge. In the supply chain world, the price is based on the volume, on how many orders. Because we are in a customer experience and more closer to the e-commerce world, we tend to think let's forget the volume, because and also when we look at the growth, no one can predict how much they will grow, how fast they will grow, right? So we have an approach where yes, we take the volume into consideration, but we look at the project, we look at the scope, and then we find the price. It's an annual recurring fee that we agree with the brand based on the complexity of the project, the scope of the project, and what are the capabilities that they want to unlock, and then we help them to grow. So price can vary really from a couple of hundred pounds per month to a couple of thousands, depending of the complexity of the size of the brand.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I think that's nice for people to understand that the starting point can be the hundreds rather than tens of thousands. I think that's always nice to know, but obviously complexity does impact it. Interesting comment. I like the fact you said that you see post-purchase is going to be commoditized. It's not, it's going to be just a standard part of service provision. Chris, I'd love to hear from your point of view then as a final question. Where do you see post-purchase customer experience going for e-commerce businesses?
Chris, don't use metaverse word, right? Because otherwise that would be being a jingle.
Not allowed to use metaverse, cryptocurrency, okay. AR.
I'm happy not to use any of those words. So where do I think it's going? I think Adrien's right. I think there's certain elements that will become commoditized. I think if you think about headless, if you think about kind of how easy it is to kind of share data between systems these days, there's certain things that will become commoditized. In some degrees, they are already. So basic tracking, people are able to do that from a status perspective. What's going to happen, I think, is the maturity that we have before the buy button, as I said, in terms of a consolidation of some of those technologies, but essentially around, very sophisticated, very personalized experiences. I think we're going to see similar after the buy button. It's already happening in the track space. But I can't imagine a world where, we talk about returns a lot. Customers are interested actually in refunds or exchanges. So we see a world where there'll be way more sophistication in terms of not having to wait ages for me to get a refund, to initiate an exchange. Like if I'm buying a pair of luxury shoes and I need to return them, like I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to shell out another £300 while I'm waiting for my original £300 to be refunded, as an example. So way more maturity after the buy button in terms of some of these processes, returns, exchanges, refunds, a long way to go in terms of making this genuinely simpler for customers. The challenge will be retailers not having a single approach for everyone. And that's kind of what we mean by personalization. That will be powered by data. That will be powered by dynamic business rules that are captured online, probably self-serve, rather than filling out a piece of paper and having a kind of one size fits all approach to this. I can see Adrien waving. He loves a wave. So go for it.
Yeah. No. I just want to add one small thing on this. I'm an optimistic guy, but so I hope that it will happen. I cannot imagine that post-purchase will not be part also of the sustainability strategy of the brands. How do you educate your customer about stopping receiving everything, like 10 products that they don't need or 10 times the same product in 1 hour? So we can educate, we can select, educate them when to receive, how to receive, how to educate them about a refund, return of the product. How can we educate the brand to stop printing all those paper that they add the return labels on the package? So all those kind of discussion about sustainability, and we know that it's a huge trend that is hitting everyone on every aspect. Post-purchase will be a key part of this, because it's really about educating the customer.
Yeah, excellent. That's covered all I've really enjoyed this episode, Adrien, Chris. So thank you for joining us. If anybody wants to probe you further, wants to challenge you on anything, or wants to find out a bit more technically about how parts of the platform will be used in their business, who do they reach out to and how?
It's a very good question. So you can reach out to either of us. We're both pretty visible on LinkedIn. By all means, send me an email. It's chris.hoskin@narvar.com. Alternatively, feel free to request a demo from our website, which is narvar.com. And yeah, I guess, James, it would be great if we maybe provide a link to this ROI calculator and people can get in touch that way too.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much.
James, James, I want to say something. So people that listen don't know the back outside of the when we record. You are very nice. You are always you helped us prepare this. So thanks a lot. You are great. You are very very well this space. So thanks a lot for the invitation. And yes, I knew that you were nice, and I was glad to have this episode with you. So I wait for you in the episode of my podcast in French because I learned that you speak French.
Merci beaucoup, c'est gentil. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And we always say in this podcast, we have a lot of people from abroad where English is their second language, and it always blows me away how good people's English is. So thank you very much for taking the time. And thanks everyone for listening as always. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Keep an ear open for the next one. We drop them every Tuesday. We'd love you to subscribe if you haven't already, and we would like more ratings on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Let us know if we're still doing a good job with the content. Take care, everybody. See you soon. For more information on this topic, head over to replatform.fm for our audio podcasts. To discuss a project, or if you'd like to chat about any of the topics covered in this episode in more detail, please reach out to myself, James Gurd, or my co-host Paul Rogers via LinkedIn and Twitter. Thanks again for listening, and keep your ears peeled for the next episode.